Good afternoon and thank you for tuning in. Hope you're all safe and well and you've been behaving yourself since last week. Today's video covers another fascinating subject which I have thoroughly enjoyed researching for you. But at this point I also want to take the opportunity to give a shout out to a couple of my mates. V McCrinnan for the background track, one of his own compositions, and also to Craig Bryant of Paranormal Pendle podcast for allowing me to use his photo for the title sequences of the spooky River Ribble in Lancashire. Woo! Anyway, thanks to both of you, much appreciated. And without further ado, let's take a look at Cryptids of the World. The Mongolian deathworm is a creature alleged to exist in the Gobi Desert. The creature first came to Western attention as a result of Roy Chapman Andrews' 1926 book on the Trail of Ancient Man. The American paleontologist described second-hand tales of the monster that he heard at a gathering of Mongolian officials. None of those present ever had seen the creature, but they all firmly believed in its existence and described it minutely. The worm is said to inhabit the western or southern Gobi and is described as travelling underground, creating waves of sand on the surface which allow it to be detected. It is said it can kill at a distance, either by spraying a venom at its prey or by means of electric discharge. It primarily lives and burrows underground, only rarely coming to the surface. Sadly, it seems interest in the worm has died down, as there have not been any recent sightings. With more knowledge of the ecology of the Gobi Desert, what was previously thought to be the Mongolian deathworm may have actually been a type of pit viper or rat snake local to the area. Other than the bright pink and red flesh, the descriptions of the worm match these types of snakes. It is said that sightings of the deathworm were likely driven by mistaken identification of species or hallucinations caused by desert conditions, but I have to say, looking at the picture of the snake and the picture of the Mongolian deathworm and the description, they don't look alike to me. So is it true or is it not? Bigfoot is most often described as a large, muscular and bipedal ape-like creature covered in black, dark brown or dark reddish hair. Descriptions estimate a height of roughly 6 to 9 feet, with some descriptions having seen the creature standing as tall as 10 to 15 feet. Some alleged observations describe Bigfoot as more man-like, with reports of a human-like face. In 1971, multiple people in the Dallas, Oregon, filed a police report describing an overgrown ape, and one of the men claimed to have sighted the creature in the scope of his rifle, but could not bring himself to shoot it because it looked more human than animal. Common descriptions also include broad shoulders, no visible neck and long arms, which skeptics describe as likely misidentification of a bear standing upright. Some alleged nighttime sightings have stated the creature's eyes glowed yellow or red. However, eyeshine is not present in humans or any other known apes, and so proposed explanations for observable eyeshine off the ground in the forest include owls, raccoons or opossums perched in foliage. People have described smelling Bigfoot, stating, "Imagine a skunk that had rolled around in dead animals and had hung around the garbage pits." Many of the indigenous cultures across the North American continent include tales of mysterious hair-covered creatures living in forests, and it seems these legends existed long before contemporary reports of Bigfoot. These stories differed in their details both regionally and between families in the same community. On the Tule River Indian Reservation in central California, petroglyphs created by a tribe of Yokuts at a site called Painted Rock are alleged by some to depict a group of Bigfoot called the Family. The local tribespeople call the largest of the glyphs Hairy Man, and they're estimated to be between 500 and 1,000 years old. 16th century Spanish explorers and Mexican settlers in California told tales of the Los Vigilantes Oscuros, or Dark Watchers, large creatures alleged to stalk their camps at night. In the region that is now Mississippi, a French Jesuit priest was living with the Natchez in 1721 and reported stories of hairy creatures in the forest known to scream loudly and steal livestock. Since then, we've had the widely debated footage of Patty, filmed in Bluff Creek, North Carolina, by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin back in 1967. Further to that, millions of reports worldwide have been made by witnesses who have seen similarly described creatures. And as we all know, here in the UK we have our own reports. Deborah Hatswell formed BBR several years after her own sighting aged 15 and has taken literally thousands of reports of wild men or woodwose, not just from all over the UK, but worldwide too. My own sighting back in 1993 fits with the description given by so many others. I have my own theories as to what these cryptids are and where they come from, but what are yours? The bunyip is a creature from the Aboriginal mythology of southeastern Australia, said to lurk in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds and waterholes. Physical descriptions of the bunyip vary widely. The bunyips presumably seen by witnesses according to their descriptions most commonly fit one of two categories. 60% of sightings resemble seals or swimming dogs, and 20% of sightings are of long-necked creatures with small heads. The remaining descriptions are ambiguous beyond categorisation. Others say the bunyip has the characteristics of a bird and an alligator. They believe it has a long bill with serrated edges like a stingray. Its body and legs are thick and strong like an alligator, but its forelegs are much longer than its hind legs. The bunyip swims like a frog in water, but walks on its forelegs on land with its head erect. When it stands, it reaches 12 or 13 feet. The first written description of the bunyip came in 1845. It claimed the creature laid massive pale blue eggs and had deadly claws, powerful hind legs, a brightly coloured chest, and an emu-like head. This is why some people believe the bunyip was only a southern cassowary, or an Australasian bittern, which is sometimes referred to as the bunyip bird. So, the question remains, are all these witnesses seeing a bunyip, or again is it a case of mistaken identity? What do you think? The ninjin is described as a whale-like creature that has anatomical similarities to humans. The creature has a face, and in some stories it is said to have extremely large limbs and/or arms and hands, about 65 to 100 feet long. The pigmentation of this creature is said to be pale blue. The creature has a large slit-like mouth and either large or small gaping eyes. In 2010, a Japanese chemical research company published a YouTube video showing the ocean life that they observed. Near the end of the video, a large creature with small eyes and a large, smiling slit-like mouth can be spotted lying on the ocean floor. Though most people think that the infamous ninjin was spotted, some people say that it is most likely a snaggle-toothed snake eel. Sometime around the 2010s, an unknown user posted underwater footage depicting a large humanoid sea creature, which many believe to be the ninjin. The ninjin is said to inhabit the sub-Antarctic oceans. There are countless video captures of it on the internet. It is also said that it was invented by Japanese internet users in the mid-2000s. If that is the case, then what exactly are we looking at in these films? Is it all just a fabrication, or is there more to it? The history of the rougarou is centuries old and has many different origins, but the earliest mention of the infamous mythical Louisiana werewolf comes from medieval France. Back in the day of armour, swords and jousting, there was a lot more to fear than the plague and witches. Beasts called loup-garous, which means werewolves in French, were also infamous throughout the country. Villagers would capture people they believed to be a loup-garou, then hold a public trial. Usually they'd find someone in the woods or someone in the village just acting strange. The court would ask the public if they believed the accused to be a loup-garou, and usually the public agreed. These loup-garous became a fear for many people in the country, leading them to earning their place in legends passed down to children. The French Catholics claimed that you would be turned into a loup-garou if you did not follow the rules of Lent for 7 consecutive years. When many of the French migrated to Canada and the southern United States, they took the legend of the loup-garou with them. Since the migration, many of the legends began to change to match the times and the dialect. Since Cajun dialect is a mix of French and English, and well known for changing words completely to roll off the tongue easier, the name of the beast was changed from loup-garou to rougarou. This shapeshifter is slightly more muscular and powerful than a werewolf because it has to cross the dense swamps. It looks a lot like one, but has some differences. Cajun lore claims that a rougarou possesses the body of a man, but the head of a wolf or dog, with red glowing eyes. If anyone manages to look into its eyes or gets bitten by one, they would become a rougarou themselves, in a manner very akin to a typical lycanthrope. Cow mutilations have been reported with no blood left in the body. This aspect is very similar to various chupacabra sightings. Some daring cryptozoologists have attempted to approach the rougarou, but all attempts have failed. The Michele Mbembe, Lingala for one who stops the flow of rivers, is a water-dwelling entity that supposedly lives in the Congo River basin, sometimes described as a living creature, sometimes as a spirit. Those that have allegedly seen the creature describe it as a large quadrupedal herbivore with smooth skin, a long neck and a single tooth, sometimes said to be a horn. The first description of the Michele Mbembe as a sauropod-like beast was in 1909 in Beasts and Men, the autobiography of famed big game hunter Carl Hagenbeck. He claimed to have heard from 2 independent sources about a creature living in Rhodesia, or modern-day Zimbabwe, which was described to them by natives as half elephant, half dragon. Tales of entities like Michele Mbembe, living saurians walking around the African rainforest, are not rare. There have been multiple tales of large, smooth-skinned quadrupeds with long necks that fed upon large prey still living in Central Africa. It was only after the description of the Michele Mbembe surfaced that the rest of the world started interpreting those legends as possessing a dinosaur-like body structure. Another report comes from German captain Ludwig von Stein, who was ordered to conduct a survey of German colonies in what is now Cameroon in 1913. He heard stories of an enormous reptile called Michele Mbembe, alleged to live in the jungles, and included a description in his official report. Allegedly, von Stein worded his report with utmost caution, knowing it might be seen as unbelievable. Nonetheless, von Stein thought the tales were credible. Trusted native guides had related the tales to him, and the stories were related to him by independent sources, yet featured many of the same details. Though von Stein's report was never formally published, he is quoted as writing, "The animal is said to be of a brownish-grey colour, with a smooth skin. Its size is approximately that of an elephant, at least that of a hippopotamus. It is said to have a very long and flexible neck, and only one tooth, but a very long one. Some say it is a horn. A few spoke about a long muscular tail like that of an alligator. Canoes coming near it are said to be doomed. The animal is said to attack the vessels at once, and to kill the crews but without eating the bodies. The creature is said to live in the caves that have been washed out by the river in the clay of its shores at sharp bends. It is said to climb the shores even at daytime in search of food. Its diet is said to be entirely vegetable. This feature disagrees with a possible explanation as a myth. The preferred plant was shown to me. It is a kind of liana, with large white blossoms, with a milky sap and apple-like fruits. At the Sombo River, I was shown a path said to have been made by this animal in order to get to its food. The path was fresh, and there were plants of the described type nearby. But since there were too many tracks of elephants, hippos and other large animals, It was impossible to make out a particular spore with any amount of certainty. The Michele Mbembe's existence has been highly questioned since its publication. The lack of physical evidence and the conflicting witnesses have made the existence of the entity doubted by the astounding majority of scientists and historians. So what do we think it is that's being reported? Surely even back then, people would have known the difference between elephants and rhinoceros. So, is there any truth to this story? Who knows? The Ahul is a flying cryptid, supposedly a giant bat, or by other accounts, a living pterosaur or flying primate. Such a creature is unknown to science, and there is no objective evidence that it exists as claimed. Like many cryptids, it is not well documented, and little reliable information, and in this case, no material evidence, exists. Named for its distinctive call, Ahul, it is said to live in the deepest rainforests of Java. It is described as having a monkey ape-like head, with large dark eyes, large claws on its forearms, approximately the size of an infant, and a body covered in grey fur. Possibly the most intriguing and astounding feature is that it is said to have a wingspan of 10 feet. This is almost twice as long as the largest known bat in the world, the common flying fox. While most of the reported sightings of the creature have occurred deep within the jungles of Java, sightings of the Ahul have taken place all across Indonesia, with some sightings reported as far as New Guinea. Sightings of mysterious human-sized bats have been reported in all corners of the world. 3 US Marines in Da Nang in Vietnam in 1969 reported an Ahul at being 5 feet tall. It's also called the Vietnam night flyer and to the Mayans the death bat. They're always reported as having eerie feminine features and are known to swoop down on their victims and attack several times. They lurk in the darkest caves all over the world and will repeatedly swoop upon their victims with claws and fangs. The Ahul is also described as being a giant vampire bat. The Bathyembrix histiophasma, a pallid sailfin, is a hypothetical species of fish observed by William Beebe on the 11th of August 1934. He described seeing the species twice during the same dive, at depths of 1,500 feet and 2,500 feet, near the coast of Bermuda. The bathysphere, as termed by Beebe, was a new yet primitive invention. It was a rounded steel enclosure with space adequate for 2 people, its external layer being 1.25 inches. On the side there was a single window, made of fused quartz, 8 inches across and 3 inches thick. It was fitted with a heavy steel door that had to be bolted on. With no manoeuvrability, the navigation of this steel submersible was solely dependent on the ship it was attached to. Beebe had no camera brought with him to these great depths, and instead described the species in detail to Els Bostelman, an artist who proceeded to illustrate his findings. From 1930 to 1934, this submersible was used by Beebe in his deep-sea expeditions. Beebe had begun to fathom what he'd seen. Within moments he'd prepared a description for the new creature. He stated it was large for a deep-sea fish, reaching a length of 2 feet at the very least. The fish was completely non-luminous and had a small eye as well as a decently sized mouth. The pectoral fins were long and wide but filamentous. 2 features on the sail fin stood out according to Beebe. He described the colour as sickly, pale and olive. In his own words, the hue of water-soaked flesh. The caudal fin was reduced much like a button. The vertical fins, which were assumed to be the anal and dorsal fin, extended greatly beyond its body. He admitted that he did not see the pelvic fins, and thus the illustration subsequently produced lacked them. Of the 6 new fish described by Beebe, none of them were confirmed to exist. The existence of all fishes was supported by his colleague Otis Barton, who descended with him in the submersible. It is possible that the creature that Beebe observed may have been a deep-sea squid, and that the reason he didn't notice a pelvic fin was because the creature he saw may have lacked it in the first place. The status of this species remains unresolved, and has been deemed a hypothetical species or a cryptid by many. Chupacabra literally means goat sucker in Spanish, from the chupa to suck and cabras, goats. It is a legendary creature in the folklore of parts of the Americas, with its first purported sightings reported in Puerto Rico in 1995. The name comes from the animal's reported vampirism. The chupacabra is said to attack and drink the blood of livestock, including goats. Physical descriptions of the creature vary. Some describe it as reptilian and alien-like in Puerto Rico and Latin America, generally as a heavy creature the size of a small bear, with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail. Others describe it as more dog-like, particularly in southwestern United States. Sightings have been reported in Puerto Rico since the 1970s, and this creature has since been reported as far north as Maine, as far south as Chile, and even outside the Americas, in countries like Russia and the Philippines. According to biologists and wildlife management officials, the chupacabra is an urban legend. The most common description of the chupacabra is that of a reptile-like creature, said to have leathery or scaly greenish-grey skin and sharp spines or quills running down its back. It's said to be approximately 3 to 4 feet high and stands and hops in a fashion similar to that of a kangaroo. Another common description of the chupacabra is of a strange breed of wild dog. This form is mostly hairless and has a pronounced spinal ridge, unusually pronounced eye sockets, fangs and claws. Unlike conventional predators, the chupacabra is said to drain all of the animal's blood and sometimes organs, usually through 3 holes in the shape of a downwards pointing triangle, but sometimes through only 1 or 2 holes. Another feature of the chupacabra is allegedly its red, large, glowing eyes. So, what are we left with? What do we think about this one? Is it an urban legend? Have people seen it? Or are they mistaking it for a mangy dog? In Ohio folklore, the Loveland frog, also known as the Loveland frogman or Loveland lizard, is a legendary humanoid frog, described as standing roughly 4 feet tall, allegedly spotted in Loveland, Ohio. In 1972, the Loveland frog legend gained renewed attention when a Loveland police officer reported to a colleague that he'd seen an animal consistent with the descriptions of the frogman. After a reported sighting in 2016, the second officer called a news station to report that he had shot and killed the same creature some weeks after the 1972 incident and identified it as a large iguana that was missing its tail. According to various legends, the creature was first sighted by a businessman or travelling salesman driving along an unnamed road late at night in 1955. In one story, the driver was heading out of the Branch Hill neighbourhood when he spotted 3 figures stood erect on their hind legs along the side of the road. Going back to the police reports, on March 3, 1972 at 1 a.m, Loveland police officer Ray Shockey was driving on Riverside Drive near to the Totes Boot Factory and the Little Miami River when an unidentified animal scurried across the road in front of his vehicle. The animal was fully illuminated in his vehicle's headlights, and he described it as 3 to 4 foot long and about 50 to 75 pounds with leathery skin. He reported spotting the animal crouched like a frog before it momentarily stood erect to climb over the guardrail and back down towards the river. 2 weeks after the incident, a second Loveland police officer, Mark Matthews, reported seeing an unidentified animal crouched along the road in the same vicinity as Shockey's sighting. Matthews shot the animal, recovered the body, and put it in his trunk to show Officer Shockey. According to Matthews, it was a large iguana, about 3 to 3.5 feet long, and he didn't immediately recognise it because it was missing its tail. Matthews speculated that the iguana had been someone's pet that either got loose or was released when it grew too large. According to Matthews, Shockey was shown the dead iguana and confirmed it was the animal he'd seen 2 weeks previously. I don't know what to make of this one. Surely a police officer would know how to estimate size and height and detail. Would an iguana, even a tailless one, would it crouch like a frog? Would it suddenly stand up on two legs and climb over a barrier? I'm really not sure. Is it an urban legend? Who knows? The Fresno Nightcrawler sightings began back in the 1990s and have only occurred a few times since then. These strange beings are cryptids that look like pants, but are only a few feet high and are just seen wandering around. There are only a few eyewitnesses in Fresno, but the Nightcrawlers do pop up on other surveillance cameras, startling whoever checks the CCTV tapes. Much video footage of cryptids is easily debunked by video analysis, but the weird thing about the Nightcrawlers is that the videos seem to be legit. According to the experts on the sci-fi channels Fact or Faked, faking these mysterious creatures would prove to be a difficult task. So what exactly is on these tapes? No one is entirely sure, but theorists propose the odd creatures could be ghosts, aliens, a possessed pair of pants, or one of the weirdest hoaxes ever concocted. No one may ever know for sure. However, the known facts about the Fresno Nightcrawlers are enough to leave viewers scratching their heads. And that little bit of creepiness rounds the video off for today. Thank you so much for watching. So I have a little video to play of an advert that I've made for an upcoming special. So have a look at this and I shall be back in a second. So there you have it, folks, something special to look forward to. I'll be posting that advert up on every platform, and when I've confirmed the date with the person, I shall be putting an advert out ready for the show. So stay tuned for that. You'll see it all over anyway, so you won't miss it. Another thing, people ask me where the bee comes from, and it's actually because Deborah, spelt properly, is Hebrew for bee, and I have a bee tattoo. So I thought, well, I might as well use it and put it in my videos. So there you have it. In case you were wondering, that's what it is. Deborah is Hebrew for bee. Okay, folks, I shall catch you next week. Stay safe, stay happy, and don't forget, stay spooky.